Hello, this is Paula Merritt.
Hey, Ms. Merritt. This is Judy Franklin at Professional Standards.
Yes, ma'am.
You were going to call me back, and I never heard from you.
I have been in and out of the hospital.
I'm so
due to
sorry.
being sick. So,
Oh, dear. Are you okay?
Yeah, I should be.
Okay. Gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So, where are we with things?
Well, I wanted to finish talking to you, and I tried to call you yesterday, and I know you were out. So, is this an okay time for you to talk?
Yes. I have a 12:30, but I should have a few minutes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, we were talking about the situation back over at Hopewell.
Yes. Hold on. Let me shut my door.
All right.
And I couldn't find any of my things. I have like 20 bins. And there was no way that I physically can go through them all and find anything. And I can't even find the original report. And before I go any further with speaking on it, I would prefer to have a copy of that report where I can reference the things in order to jar my memory.
What original report are you talking about?
The Fulton County. Did you get a copy of the Fulton County report?
Yes.
And see, I don't even have my copy of it, and I don't know if I can get that in order to be able to reference all the points.
Well, I can't give it to you because we don't. When we have a case open, we're not our files are not subject to the Georgia Open Records Act.
Right.
But I can read what they've got here as your statement.
Or if you have questions based on, my parts of the statement, that would be the best avenue because, like I said, you hate to have to recall bad situations, but you would hate to leave out any part of it as well. So.
Right. Okay, hold on.
Now, were you able to speak to any other persons that would have had first-hand records of stuff? Because,
First-hand records.
Well, first-hand knowledge of seeing it, not just the report, but actually saw things take place.
Yes.
Okay.
But part of the problem is nobody apparently wrote anything down. Is that true?
As far as their recollection of what happened?
Anybody making any kind of report?
The only one I know of, like the physical report, was Judy Reddick.
Right.
She made her written report.
Right.
And it was turned in, and I don't know what happened to that report. But
right. Okay, so it says that you were interviewed on July the 6th and that you were the IST for Hopewell during August of 2004 to May of 07.
Yeah.
That you were in charge of the special ed program at Hopewell. And you became aware of a problem with Miss Pickens' behavior toward Jake from the beginning, the fall of 2004. During the school year 2005-2006, Nathan Conway, a custodian at the school, came to you and told you that he had seen Miss Pickens mistreat Jake by putting her foot on him on consecutive days, and he was very upset.
Yes.
The next day, you went to Ms. Boyd and told her of the incidents. She called Conway into her office and degraded and intimidated him so badly about the report he felt afraid of losing his job. He recanted his report.
Correct.
Ms. Boyd said to him, "Do you want to put this in writing?" No.
And he doesn't read or write, and that was left out of there unless it's stated, and I don't.
Okay, so tell me about that situation.
Basically, I was on my way to drive out of the parking lot, and he's stopping my car.
Okay.
He's running, stopping my car. And when he stopped the car, he told me about he's really worried about Jake's being mistreated by Miss Pickens. And basically, I said, well, what is she doing? Why are you saying that? Well, she's dragging him. She's kicking him with her foot. And I really care about this boy. His wife used to babysit Jake, or was some type of caregiver for Jake.
Okay.
So he was very disturbed by what he saw and kept, explaining to me, something's got to be done. I'm really worried for Jake, all of this stuff. So while I'm leaving the parking lot, I call Miss Boyd back. I call her from my cell phone back at the school. I speak with her, let her know of Nathan's concerns, and then the very next day she called him in and spoke to him with his custodial supervisor. And basically, whatever was said to him, he was...
Oh, you weren't there?
I wasn't there for that part of it. I was called in right afterwards. Right after, I guess they were talking to Joanne and Nathan about what they were going to do or whatever was said. But then when I was called in with Nathan to confront the situation, he's like, I don't know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about, and he was very fearful. And she asked him, all of the statement that's on my statement, if you want to put it in writing, and he doesn't read and write. I have 3 or 4 adults in special ed that would write out his bills, would help him pay his bills, like write the checks for him, complete paperwork for him.
Okay.
Specific things, even myself, for his daughter to be in special ed, moving from another state. There was paperwork that he couldn't read or write to complete it for the application. And everyone was very helpful to him. But basically, he was minimized in that meeting, and just, you could tell, it's very sad to me, and it's not just interpretation, for a man to sit there afraid that he's not going to have his job. And nothing was mentioned about him not having his job, but he was very afraid that if he didn't recant his statement that he wouldn't have a job.
Did y'all ever talk about it after?
He would not speak to me ever, and we had a great relationship up until that point, but he would not speak to me at all. He wouldn't say hey, he wouldn't say hello. I would initiate, how are you doing, Nathan? Whatever. He would not speak to me whatsoever.
Okay.
After that incident, and I never spoke with him really again, other than to, cordially, how I was raised, speak to someone, say hello in passing.
Right.
So I never spoke to him after that point at all, and he never spoke to me, and other than me saying hello and him turning his head, because he was so afraid, of not having his job. And he's like, I'm not, and he did say that. He said, well, one, he couldn't write, or read, so he wasn't going to put anything in writing in his case. And then he said, I have to have my job. That was one of the last things that he said was, I have to have my job, So that gave me, the impression that he was threatened not to, have his job.
Okay. But what you personally saw and heard, not
Right.
your interpretation,
Right.
was him coming to you in the parking lot saying he had seen Pickens kicking Jake
Absolutely.
and dragging him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you're aware that that Ms. Boyd had a meeting with him and his supervisor.
Correct.
And then you were called in after that meeting, and at that point he had recanted the story about what he had seen Pickens do to Jake.
Correct.
Okay. And in that meeting was when Ms. Boyd asked if he wanted to put it in writing. Is that the meeting that you were in?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. And he declined to do so.
Okay. And everybody knows he doesn't read or write.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then after that, he just wouldn't talk to you at all?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. All right. And then it goes on to say, the teachers and parapros used to come to Merritt with reports of inappropriate behavior on the part of Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
In March of 2007, Kay Kendrick, a speech teacher, came to Merritt and told her she was very disturbed with the fact that Pickens was passing gas on a child. Ms. Merritt went to Boyd immediately with the report. Boyd said if it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
Correct.
Boyd told Merritt to get Pickens and bring her to the office. Boyd then told Pickens when she entered the office, "I'm so sorry, it looks like they're picking on you again." Mm-hmm. Boyd took no further action. Merritt told Boyd that Kendrick did not want her name known if nothing was going to be done.
Correct.
Boyd had released the name of a person making a report on Pickens before. Then the person whose names had been given out would get different treatment on the hall. Okay, so tell me about that.
Just what we're referring to as Judy Reddick's report. Melanie was given the opportunity to read the direct complaint.
Okay.
Against Melanie.
Uh-huh.
And after that happened, and after that happened, basically, Miss Reddick was treated very poorly, and nothing really was done other than it said it would be placed. We would make note of this. You've been talked to about this. Don't let it happen again.
Was this the camera incident or the hitting on the back of the head incident? I got confused.
It was not stated in there. It was something with the head.
Okay.
I think the camera incident and him hit on the back of the head was probably one of the same incidents, or could have been the same incident.
Okay.
But once she wrote that up, basically Miss Reddick was treated poorly by Miss Boyd, as well as Melanie was treated bad by her.
By Reddick?
Like Judy Reddick was treated bad by the both of them.
By Boyd and Pickens. Okay.
For writing the complaint.
Okay.
So, Judy loved her job there so much that she continued to do her job and just basically, did what she did at the peripheral, and then she was promoted to one of the coordinators for the nurses. So she wasn't directly on that hallway. But I know Miss Goodman, the other cluster nurse, she also witnessed things with this same teacher.
Okay.
And I don't know if she was ever interviewed, but I know she did directly report to Miss Boyd any interaction or inappropriate behavior that she saw Melanie had, and that was well after Miss Reddick, went on to her next role, but she still was, Hopewell was still one of the schools in her cluster.
Okay. So were you... Okay, so Kay comes to you. Miss Kendrick comes to you.
Yes.
And then you go right to Miss Boyd.
Absolutely, every single time.
And Miss Boyd says, well, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
Correct.
But she still calls Pickens in there.
Absolutely, and I had to go get her from the parking lot and because she was on her way out.
Okay.
And I had to go get her
from
the parking lot to bring her back inside.
All right. And so, was anything other than it looks like they're picking on you again said?
I think...
Or were you in there at all?
I was in there the whole time.
Okay.
And she just explained, you don't need this to happen. You don't need to, you really need to watch yourself. I don't know what the specific words were after all this time, but basically, you just need to watch your behavior. This is what's being said, and, and it was just basically a casual conversation of contact saying, this is what's happened, so it was like a 5-minute conversation, and then she left for the day, and we went about our separate ways.
All right. And then Boss said she didn't want to be Pickens Parapro anymore.
Who?
Baugh, B-A-U-G-H.
Oh, Denise Baugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she said she didn't want to be in there anymore because of what all she had seen.
Right.
Was she specific?
Just the constant mistreatment of the kids, yelling at them, being forceful with them. Like, she used to do this, pressing Jake or the other kids against the wall, and it wasn't just Jake, but Jake he had, one of the most severe, he was one of the most severe behavior problems, so everything with him was pretty much escalated all the time because he would plop and drop, and he was, taller than her, definitely heavier, because if you're having to help lift a child with the full body weight, you're not going to be able to get it. And we would call we told her with so many reports, to call the administrators or myself to come assist with him, not to do it yourself. Sometimes she would and sometimes she wouldn't.
Okay.
But Denise saw a lot of inappropriate things that were very disturbing as a mother and as a professional. She just saw a lot of things, as well as Yoselin King. She has a special needs child. And she also requested after the first year not to be in that room. And she was moved. And then Denise came the second year, and she asked to be moved. And then Judy Massey was in there every year. And the third year, she asked to be moved because of what they constantly saw from the class. And it definitely wasn't hearsay. And this was no knowledge to Miss Boyd on a regular basis.
Okay. Now, Miss Boyd is saying, yeah, you might have stuck your head in the door and said, okay, Pickens is, doing it again or doing something. But that you never put it in writing, and that you were always kind of flippant and just offhand about it. She's saying she never understood that it was a problem.
And that's not true.
Okay.
But
tell me why not.
Because she was given specific details constantly of who said what, when things were said, and she was very aware that there was a problem, but really just didn't even the first year with Judy Reddick's complaints and all the other complaints, she never did anything about it. And that's why people were afraid to put things in writing, because if the person's just going to see it and nothing's being done, they didn't want to do that. They just didn't do that. And to be honest with you, she discouraged it. After that first thing, she basically discouraged that from being in writing.
And why didn't you put it in writing?
I would say, I guess that's the only step I could have done more of, was to keep a running journal or log of whatever. But every time I reported to Miss Boyd, every single time, and a lot of times it wasn't just me. I would go with the person to report to her.
Okay, now some of the folks that work there that I talked to said you told them not to bother Miss Boyd.
That's not true. That's not true. I told them I would definitely tell Miss Boyd about it, or go with them to tell her.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess in the position that you sit in an objective chair, with hearing things, but it was a constant thing, even up until the last event. The worst of the worst events with Jake. I mean, the same thing happened every single time, where she was told about it, and I guess that's the only thing as a professional I would do differently, is to journal and write it up. That would be the only thing that I could do differently. But I never told them, I always told them, I will go tell her immediately, and it was always immediate. It wasn't, let me wait 10 minutes, if she wasn't in the building, I got a hold of her to tell her, if something happened. So I don't know.
Okay, because nobody mentioned ever going with you to talk to her.
And
except White and Talent for that last incident in May of last year.
Okay, and I know, like I said, with Kate and everyone, basically, on several occasions, like I said, it was a period of 3 years that this went on, and like I said, there's no way of you mentioning every single thing, remembering every single detail.
Right.
So I guess it's just up to the person whether or not, they...
Okay, well, who else do you remember going with to talk to Ms. Boyd about an incident?
Oh, I know, like Denise.
Okay.
I know Denise. I know Yoslin.
Okay.
The year prior to that. Like I said, I couldn't even name all the incidents because, of course, nothing's journaled, appropriately.
What do you mean appropriately?
Well, I'm just saying in writing. No one, you can recall all these details, but basically nothing's journaled the way it should have been journaled or written up, So, I mean, it's, like I said, if I were sitting in your chair, it would be the same thing, all of these accounts, but you don't have specific days and times that you did it,
Right.
So
right.
I don't know how to give feedback on that. But it's bad that someone would minimize something being done to children, and someone just acting like it was a casual entity after something so bad to a child has happened. But there's nothing, like you said, it could just be, based on the chair you're sitting in, hearsay. But I can tell you these incidents were not hearsay, and these incidents were reported, and you don't know how to defend it if it's not in writing. And maybe there was truth to what she said. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen, but that's not the case.
Okay, so you're saying, can you even make an estimate how many times?
I can say it was more than 10.
Okay, over the 3 years or at the last year?
I can't even say. I mean, it would be hard for me to estimate that number.
Okay.
Over a 3-year period.
Okay, so where are you getting the number 10? That's what
I'm just saying I know it was more than at least 10 on 10 occasions.
Okay.
Where I spoke to Miss Boyd concerning this behavior.
Over the 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm just saying, as a conservative number, I know it was more than 10.
Okay. And
even 2 weeks prior to that last incident, and I don't know if anybody you talk to, because of course after you leave and and you move on to your next thing, you're not in contact with people.
Right.
But I don't know if if you spoke to Stacy and I don't think her best friend would really say anything that was not in defense. But Stephanie Sosby, but Stacy White and Stephanie had a heart-to-heart based on whatever they heard prior to this last incident. They had a heart-to-heart with her, encouraging her
with Pickens.
Okay. To either one, get out of working with the kids that are the most severe, or to move on to something else. They had a conversation with her, and I was not there for it, but I was told by Miss White that they had a heart-to-heart with her because things just continued to happen that were not good or in the best interest of the children, or, just as a professional, just not in the best interest for, teaching kids. And so, they had this conversation with her and warned her, to stop whatever she was doing.
Okay.
But they didn't. They had this on their own, this conversation on their own, but I don't know if they mentioned the details of that conversation.
Okay. And when you went to Ms. Boyd, you let her know it was a serious incident? You weren't just making casual conversation with yourself?
And I know I have an outgoing personality, but it's not to be minimized with the seriousness of a situation. And I know one of her opinions was that you're so overly passionate about, staff and the kids, and she's like, you really need to pull back from that. And I take information or constructive feedback and apply it appropriately, but it was never a joke. It was always a serious conversation with her, concerning this matter. It was always serious, and, I just, I hate that, the situation happened, period, once. One time is too many. I hate that, being a professional and put in a situation where you have to defend kids and what's happened to other kids. Like the other kid, I don't know if you looked into the file or could look into the file, but I know with one kid, Aaron Hatcher, he was completely disabled, not mobile at all. And there were specific things that happened with him, and I know Garrett was another kid. I can't remember the specific details with him. But I'm talking about Aaron Hatcher. And I know I know in his file there was a big write-up about the parent concerns, what the parent walked in one time. And I know those notes were in there. I don't know if they were removed. I know at the time I left they were still a part of his file. His special ed file.
And So why didn't you call the social worker if you're concerned about all this stuff that keeps going on with the kids? I mean, you're a mandated reporter too.
Well, we were told we were to report to Miss Boyd.
Who told you that?
I don't know, but we were told to report. I don't know at this time.
Okay.
That we were supposed to always report everything to her, whatever was going on.
Okay.
You know, good, bad, indifferent. We were supposed to report to her.
And was that supposed to be the end of it?
I guess in my eyes, I guess I was under the assumption that it was reported to her, and then she would make the call of what to do at that point.
Okay.
And, you know, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Because some people feel like, you know, one, either you minimized it or you were so upset that you didn't get the AP position there.
No, and look at this, you know, and I really think that it was irrelevant for the many, many times that this situation was brought up with Melanie. It had nothing to do with anything with my role as a professional. And they can say that or they can use that as an excuse. But my professionalism doesn't start or stop with a position, whether I'm given something or have earned something or not. So, you know, I understand if they want to make that claim or statement, but that is totally so far removed from a situation that happened for 2 years. I had successful evaluations every year there. I had great rapport. I can't even tell you how many people have called me at my new school wanting to see where I am, where they can possibly get a job from that school. You know, even 2 emails today, you know, and like I said, you don't always have people that you can get. But I had excellent rapport with the faculty there. I invested in people. I gave to people of myself. I went above and beyond the call of duty, regardless of my position. If it was a teaching position, I would have done the same thing. I've had a consistent record of that, and I think there were hurt feelings based on how you're treated, because there was not only mistreatment in this situation with dealing with staff, but it was mistreatment from Miss Boyd with many other things that I could bring up with other staff members. Didn't have anything to do with me, but other staff members. So if you didn't condone her ideology or practices, then you were, she may have had to deal with you, you know, as the principal, but basically if you didn't condone her ideology or practices, then you were kind of not treated how you should be treated. She always knew how much of a line to push. And there are specific people that I don't even want to go there, and medically I don't need to go there and get myself worked up, because it really is upsetting that they would bring up one thing that you have no control over, you know, whether a person is picked for a position or not, that's irrelevant in a kid's mistreatment, you know, or an individual's mistreatment. And there are several people that could attest to that, whether they would or not, because people don't, it's just better sometimes not to be involved, you know, because, you know, you feel like you can't you don't. It's not really winning, but it doesn't serve any purpose to try to, go out of your way to do the right thing. It's just like more of a hassle. Here, the needs of a child is not met in the way it should be, but yet, you're felt like you're put on the defensive, about a situation that should have never happened, in the way it did. So I definitely am upset about the fact that they would use a position to minimize what has happened in this situation, or that someone was disgruntled. And I always treated Miss Boyd and every other person I came in contact with, regardless of, the relationship, with respect, with professionalism.
Okay.
But like I said, there's nothing, I can do to, undo the wrong that's been done in this child's case.
Okay.
So if I'm passionate about it, I cannot separate the right and wrong of the situation.
Okay.
So
okay.
I just don't know what happens at the end of the day in this situation. I don't know what the outcome is.
Right.
To correct a situation that was poorly handled.
Okay. So you're saying that every time one of those folks on the G Hall told you that there was an incident with Melanie and Jake, you went immediately to Miss Boyd and you told her about it?
I'm saying every time I was aware that I was told about it, she was also told. And
what's different about that from what I said?
I guess there is no difference.
Okay.
I just, if I was not aware of a situation happening,
right?
If I was out of the
somebody
building,
told you.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but every time somebody told you that there was a problem, you tell Miss Boyd. Right away.
Yeah, as soon as she was in the building, or how I could get a hold of her, or I would email and say, "Come see me, please, when you return," or something like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you never minimized what anybody told you?
No.
Okay. And you didn't discourage people from going to Miss Boyd themselves?
No.
Okay. All right.
Because to be honest with you, to put it in short, and you don't know any of us, but there was complete fear factor how she ran her organization. People did not want to cross her, or I don't even know how to articulate the interaction. And if she liked you, you were well aware that she did. If she didn't care for you, you knew that too. But it didn't stop you from doing your job, or most people. Or the people. There were people that I would say she hated, and they were aware of this based on whatever interaction they had.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people that left based on, those things. Based on those things. I know for me, had I not got a position somewhere else, I wouldn't have returned to that hostile, uncomfortable.
Okay.
I wouldn't have returned to an uncomfortable situation.
I see.
But it wasn't. I was so committed to my job and to the staff there that I loved overall that I came back another 2 years.
You
because
were ready to go after the first year, huh?
I would say not based on these things, but based on all of the factors.
Okay.
With commuting over an hour and a half a day, Now I'm only a 10-minute commute. Different factors, personally, not necessarily that, with the situation with, not getting along, because we all at times, would want to move our job if we just didn't care for someone and didn't get along.
Sure.
That is just human nature if, you're not getting along with someone. But, it's, I really don't know what else to say, because this has been a very, painful thing, just because, you want to do the right thing, but yet you feel like you're put on the defensive for doing it.
Did you ever talk with Melanie about her behavior?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When was that, and what was that about?
I couldn't tell you the specific number of times, but it was a number of times. Even if it was something, the tone of voice. If I saw her use the wrong tone of voice, I would say, Melanie, there's more than one way to let them know. And these are severe kids. These are not, just the typical kids that need extra help. These are kids that mentally, are identified in a different way, a more severe category than this. And I would just talk to her about. I had great rapport with Melanie, continuing to try to encourage her, to just better herself or pull back, explain this is not what you have to do. If it's too much, then you need to think of something else you're interested in doing. So I did talk to her, when there wasn't anything going on, and especially if there was something going on, I would talk to her. Or if they would say, she sprayed Lysol in the appropriate direction or something like that. I would talk to her about, about things, or, and I don't understand why she didn't, I can't go inside her mind and know what she was thinking, or the stress she was under, and she not only had stress, with work for whatever reason, but she had it outside. She had a lot of home situations that I know was disturbing to her, with family stuff. So.
Okay, going back to this statement, here's the 2004-2005 about Reddick, and then after the incident with Jake spreading his own feces all over his face, hair, and clothes, Boyd said to Merritt, "I don't think Jake will be ill. He was eating his own feces."
Well, she didn't just say it to me. Susan Talent and Stacy White were in the room.
Okay.
So.
Was that a joke, or, what occasioned her to say this?
No, Stacy White was adamantly explaining to her that he could be ill if he ingested his own thing. And that's when she said, about whatever you just said, specific thing. That was the nature of that conversation.
Okay. All right, so she wasn't making light of the fact. She was just saying she didn't think he'd be sick.
I wouldn't say, I would say in a way she was making light of it, because Stacy had to say it 2 or 3 times, at least 2 times, that this should be a concern.
Okay. Okay. And so she's basically saying, well, if it's his own, it shouldn't be a problem. Is that right?
It sounds like something's incomplete about how it was written, but if that's what's on there.
Okay, I mean, that's it. After the incident with Jake spreading his own feces all over his face, hair, and clothes, Miss Boyd said to Miss Merritt, "I don't think Jake will be ill. He was eating his own feces."
Okay.
Okay, but do you remember, I mean, so you remember that White was talking about that he could be sick, and she had to say it a couple of times.
Right, I do remember.
Realize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do remember.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Merritt was qualified for an assistant principal position. She applied for that position at Hopewell during the school year 2006-2007. Ms. Boyd called Merritt into her office and said, "Why don't you just have babies and enjoy your present job?"
Right.
What was that about?
It was the fact that, someone asked me, they were like, "Are you interviewing for this position?" I said, "No, I applied," and I didn't even know interviews were the day that was designated. Like, whoever the top picks were, and it's totally off of, I'm sure experience and the discretion. I've seen people come out of the classroom with no experience, get positions, and in Fulton it's solely the discretion of the principal and who they recommend or who someone else that they're friends with recommends.
Okay.
But basically, someone asked me about it. I said no, and I was encouraged, if I did a great job, which I consistently was told that I did a great job leading people and possess the qualities and attributes to do the next job, that it would be something I would be considered first for, and then of course never given an interview. And like I said, I believe God has His ultimate plan in hand on my life, and if it's something that He has for you, He will make a way, and if it's not, then He has something better in store for you. So that's my core of what I believe, as far as anything. But basically, she called me in there because she heard that I was upset that I didn't even get an interview for it, and it was not the most pleasant conversation, and I was upset, at the time, being told whatever the conversation gave way to. But basically, I went on. It was, like I said, not a pleasant conversation to end your year on. It was the very last day of post-planning. And I left, with the summer licking my wounds or, just, very disheartened.
Yeah.
About the conversation. Because she always, was very, she didn't really spare your feelings too much, which, it was her style of dealing with things. But, and then I think that summer she called 2 or 3 times, and I was traveling and out of range and didn't really speak with them until, I went back for pre-planning.
Okay.
But, I put it behind me, and I worked hard, to do the job that, I always did, with integrity, with respect. I'm big on respecting my elders or authority. I'm very, very big on that, chain of command, type thing. But, I don't know how to, I guess, explain it any further. It wasn't, it was a period of growth for me of having to suck it up and go on and do the best job you could do. It didn't matter. But also with that, I truly believe directives were given to treat me a certain way, that was not the best situation, because like I said, I loved the people there as a whole and everything, but you could tell that based on different conversations throughout the year, conversations that, were had with certain people. You can just tell there are undertones. Okay. Or like one specific thing that I could tell you about that. I come back, the new AP is there, and one day there was a difficult parent call that she got, and she goes, I want you to sit in on this call. I said, no problem. She goes, well, when I dial the number, you need to come around the desk, and then you can practice being an AP. And I did not know why I would need to practice on a difficult call, when especially there's always difficult calls.
Right.
Why would I need to practice being an AP by leading a call?
Who's saying this, Boyd or the new AP?
The new AP.
The new AP, okay.
So that was like the first week, of school, so that gave me the impression that there was a conversation, she really wanted this position or something. It just gave way, and it's, my interpretation, but that was a specific thing that was kind of insulting to me, that I would need to practice a call.
Yeah.
But there are some people, about how people were treated. I don't know if you ever want to contact them, about the professional side, but I don't want, my specific thing to be a save all or just stamped as this is how it is. If you want other people's testimonies of how they were treated,
Okay, my investigation is
has nothing to do with that.
Beyond the fact that she's saying she didn't know there was a problem on that hall, Miss Boyd is, and you're saying there's no way she could not have known.
Absolutely.
Beyond that, I mean, the issue that I'm looking at is what was going on, as far as her handling the situations that were going on that hall.
Okay, and I understand that.
And so I'm interested in how she was treating people, but only as it relates to that.
Right, to this case.
Yeah. So let me back up 1 minute. I was just quick looking over my notes. You said whenever anybody told you about any incident with Pickens mistreating Jake or any other child,
right,
you either went straight to Miss Boyd or you emailed her
to say I needed to speak with her.
And did she come and speak with you?
Yeah, she always came. She always came or followed up with me. And like I said, I hate for the situation that she's in. Just because it was a situation with Melanie that was constant, that I felt like could have been handled without her even having to, be on this side of things. You know what I'm saying? And I have to say, I reflect, just personally, professionally, all the time on, what we all could do, or what I can do as a professional to better myself in any situation. I know with this situation, it's been, it's been a bad situation, but from a learning standpoint, I definitely get it to a greater level having gone through this situation, if you understand.
Get it what?
I get to the level that we should go through to protect children. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have a higher level of accountability to protect the children. So I mean, and I feel like in Miss Boyd's case, she could have, she was over personnel and staff, I feel like she could have handled this problem 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a principal, you know, they have a great responsibility, you know, to handle situation, and she's very savvy in handling a lot of situations, and it just, if that's the question in my mind, and it's not a question that I can answer for anybody, but that this situation could have been handled because there were so many incidents that
and she knew about them.
Yeah,
okay.
that she knew about. A matter of fact, I will go on to tell you one more incident. I don't even know if it's in the report because I don't have the report. But I know a parent observed something on a hallway, and she called me in, and she goes, if you get a call, and this was last year, but I don't know what month, I don't know when it was, but she called me in, she goes, if you get a call from a parent or anyone about an incident that a parent observed on the hallway, you need to tell them that administration is taking care of it. And I didn't know the specifics of what happened. I know it involved Melanie and something somebody witnessed.
Okay.
But I just, in this whole situation, I hate to even talk about it because medically I probably shouldn't. Physically, you know, it's so upsetting.
Yeah.
For it happening and feeling like you couldn't do more. You know, I feel like, you know, I wish there was more. You know, I just feel like I wish there was more. But it's just very disheartening and upsetting to relive the accounts of the events. And I didn't know I was still really upset about it so much.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're the only one.
And I hate it. You know, you hate for someone that doesn't really know you or the person you are trying to articulate how bad it really was. But, you know, you're at no fault for that. But it's just really upsetting, you know, having to relive the accounts and dissect all of it.
Right,
you know?
Right. Okay, is there anything else that you can think of that I should know about this?
That's the majority of it.
Okay.
Sure, there's, you know, stuff you can't recall, but I would say that's the majority.
Okay. All right, let me leave my telephone number with you just in case you think of anything else. All right, my name is Judy Franklin.
Okay.
And my direct line is 404-232-2641.
And what happens at this point?
All right, what I do is I write a summary for the commission. Let me just run through the whole process with you so you'll understand what's going on. When we get a complaint or a referral, the commission reviews it, and if they want it investigated, they assign the case to one of us investigators. We open a case and we send a letter to the person who's being investigated, telling them what the allegations are and, you know, that there's a case open. That gives them an opportunity to have input into the report that goes to the commission. My job in this is just to gather information. And let me just back up a minute to say, because we're a completely different entity from the school system, you know,
right.
The school system is the employer. The only relationship we have to anybody's employment is the fact that we're the licensing agency.
Right.
So whatever Fulton County or any other school system does to hire, fire, and discipline their employees, that's up to them. but our jurisdiction is somebody's certificate. Okay, so I gather information, and then I write a summary for the commission. That summary is anonymous. What goes to them is anonymous. No school system names are used. No individuals' names are used. And as I don't make recommendations as much as possible, I just say, this is what I found out doing this investigation. The commission then looks at that, and the first decision they have to make is, does this rise to the level that we want to sanction this person's certificate? And if they say no, that's called no probable cause, and if that's what they decide, then the case is closed and the file is sealed. If they say, we do think this deserves a sanction, then they've got 5 sanctions that they can choose from. There's a letter of warning, a letter of reprimand, monitoring, suspension, and revocation. Whatever they decide, another letter will go to the person who's being investigated telling them what the commission's decision was. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if it's no probable cause, it's over. They don't have to do anything. If they recommend one of those 5 sanctions, then the person has the option to either agree to the sanction by signing a consent order, or if they disagree, they can write back and request a hearing. And our hearings are handled by a totally separate state agency. It's called the Office of State Administrative Hearings, and hearings are all they do. So obviously I'm trying to get the information together to complete my summary for the commission.
Okay. Now, is there anything that I should be concerned with as this time as a witness, or it's like all these people give testimonies, or people that you get interviews from. Mm-hmm. Should those people be concerned about having to go through this again?
Well, I can't say, I can't say anything about what the school system may or may not do. If there were to be a hearing, it is certainly possible that you could be called as a witness for that. But there's so many ifs between now and that possibility, because even if the commission finds probable cause and one of these folks want to have a hearing, it could be months. So it's just really nothing to get concerned about at this point.
Okay.
People were concerned because they felt like they felt like they had been told by the school system that whatever they said was going to be confidential.
And that's part of it for me. I know with the first investigation we were told that our statements were confidential, and they were public record.
Okay, well that may, I can't again speak for the school system, but I will tell you how it works for us. Mm-hmm. As long as we have a file open, it is not subject to the Georgia Open Records Act. Okay. We don't give anything out of the file.
But it would have to be closed in order for that information to be released.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And that's what the law says, because we're a state agency.
Okay.
At some point, unless...
Well, I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of things, but especially with that piece.
Unless, if the commission finds no probable cause to take action and the case is closed and the file is sealed, my understanding is that it takes a court order to get those files opened. But if it's closed, if the file is closed any other way, either the person agrees to signs a consent order and agrees to a sanction, or if they exhaust their due process, and then, at the end of that, the file is closed, then it does become subject to the Georgia Open Records Act, and then, any citizen can write a letter saying, I want a copy of this file based on the Georgia Open Records Act, and then they could come down here and look at the file and pay us to copy it for them.
Okay.
So,
okay, well, I really appreciate your time and for listening. I don't know if anything I said helps, but,
well,
really...
it's important for me to talk to you, so I appreciate you taking your time and talking to me, too.
Okay, well, let me know if you need anything else, and if I come into anything or physical or whatever, I'll definitely pass it on to you and let you know.
Okay.
Because we moved, and so it's just...
What's your new phone number at home?
You should have that number.
I don't.
770
Okay.
720
Uh-huh.
3176.
Okay. I don't anticipate needing to talk to you again, but just in case.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for me?
No, you've been most helpful, and I hate y'all have to deal with these situations.
Well,
because I would just be beat up every day if I had to listen to these type things. But I think you've been called to an important role.
Thank you.
Of channeling things that you have to.
All right. And good luck to you. I certainly hope you continue to mend.
Okay, I do too, and hopefully someday the pain will subside and it not resurface. But when you really do care, you just can't separate it all the time. So, but thank you again.
All right. You take care.
Okay, bye bye.
All right, bye bye.